Hello, my name is Stephanie Kidd. I am here today to give you the opportunity to get two great books. One being Aligning IEPs to the State Standards, which this book here is fabulous. I'm going to show you that opportunity. And the other one is Six Successful Strategies for Teaching to the State Standards for Students with Moderate to Severe Disabilities. Now, if you are here, you are more than likely a teacher for low incidence. And I really want to say these are great books for you to have. I want to go through a couple of things right now, talk about what's in these books. Again, they are a resource that we are going to give out to the lucky 14 people who are watching these videos. Now, just to give you a little thoughts on the background of aligning the IEP book, I'm going to go through what it has available to you. So this is the table of content. And you'll see it talks about the standards and how we can align the standards and create IEPs with those. The great thing about this is it goes into all the areas: speaking, writing, math, reading, reading foundational skills. And we know that there is so much about reading that we have to think about, and literature in general. And it also goes into math and the other areas that we would like to think about, which is, you know, transitions, and not just transitions, but daily living. And so there's a lot of good things in this book about promoting self-determination and how do we do that for our students, and not just promoting it when they get older, but how do we get them making choices and those kind of things. And there's scenarios in here that you will truly, as I was reading through some of the scenarios, I was like, I've had this kid. I've seen this kid. I recognize one of my kids in this kid. And so things that you can get. The other thing is it actually gives you some objectives that you can look at. Now, again, we know that we have to have all the parts for a good goal or a good objective. So these objectives may not have all those parts, but it can get you thinking about how to set those up. And again, make sure you've got A through F in your objectives. You know, A is audience, B is the behavior that they're going to have, C is the circumstances in which they're going to do it, D is the degree, E is your evidence, and then F is your frequency. Making sure you have all of that, how that we're going to have all of that in there, making sure that you understand each part of that. So some of the things that they have back here in the back, which I love, it talks about counting coins. You know, it's got some really good things like touch chat, places you can find some different things. It also comes, no, I'm sorry, this one comes with a CD, but this one here does not come with a CD, but there's great things in here that allow you to understand this book. So again, there's some wonderful things in this book that you will want to make sure that you are looking at and that you're working with. Um, I just really like this book for thoughts and how I can look back at my standards and those kind of things. So just real quickly, let's go through some of that. So we assume that all students are unique and they have unique needs, right? And in our Kentucky standards, which there's a link right here, and I will put this into um, for links and resources. But there's a link right here to the Kentucky standards, and our Kentucky standards are really good. We're going through the math determinations right now, and so they may change a little bit, but they won't change a whole lot. Students will have, we always assume that students will have academic and functional goals that allow for instruction to support that for our standards. But what we find out is sometimes we don't actually align those to standards that those kids need. So if they're out in the regular classroom, which they should be getting some peer support, we are not giving them the opportunity to join in that classroom because they're not getting the standards that they need. So we want to make sure that they are getting that part. The other thing that we want to think about is standards and needs. Planning is important. So how can I do some different things? And so this book here about teaching to the state standards, one of the things that we don't think about enough is our students sometimes have a good grasp on videos and those kind of things. They really like that kind of stuff. So how can I pull some things in this video? But when we're having a reading, can I put some pictures in that correlate with them so that maybe if they're reading something that they have that opportunity, right, to be able to see what that word actually means and to make connections right then and there when you're pointing to certain words? And how can I change that reading to be more on their level or reduce the reading to where they can understand it? And when I say reduce the reading, I don't mean like you're taking away from it, but change the reading level. Okay. And so, what's the lexile level in which that child's reading it at, but still get the good understanding that needs to be there? A lot of our students may need pictures for the vocabulary. They may need another word above the vocabulary so that they can relate. Um, those kind of things can happen for our students and yet still give them access to that state standard. So I want you to think on many levels about that. I also want you to consider that students have to make progress, right? We have to be able to show that progress because truthfully, we are taking away that child's civil rights according to ADA if we do not supply these supports. And so we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that our students have access at all points. And that's a lot of things that these two books will do for you. And so I want you to have access to them. So some other things that it talks about in the books is what's the criteria based on the student's ability and functioning. And so if I look and I am considering a long-term goal, whether it's reading, writing, math, science, social studies, or even transition, right? Life goals, I have to do some backward planning. I have to look at what's my goal, but how do I get there? And so there may be steps that we put in place, especially for our moderate to severe students. And so we may look at, hey, I need them counting money, but what's some things that we have to do to get to counting money? Or I need them to be able to add and subtract with decimals later because I want them to be able to balance a checkbook and not just put it into a computer or look at their balance every time we turn around. I want them to understand how to plan out a budget, right? So what do I need to do in mathematics and also in life skills to get them to that point? These are the kind of things that we want to make sure that our students have the ability to really be able to be a productive citizen. Now, we may not completely reach that goal, but have we made progress, significant progress? And that's some of the things that we need to think about for later on. So first steps, become familiar with your standards. Okay. I know that's hard because you got all of them. And when I say all of them, I mean all of them. If you are a K-8 school and you are the only FMD teacher or the only LI teacher in that building, then you pretty much got all of them. And so you're needing to look through all of those standards. If you have any questions about the math ones, please contact me. If you have questions about reading and writing, Chastity Craft is your person. If you have questions about transition, I would contact Brenda Combs. She's fabulous at that and how you can get those. So those are just a couple that you can contact and talk to. If you've got questions about social studies, please contact Kim Sargent. She is wonderful and will Zoom with you. So taking time to make sure you know the people who you can contact and can work with. Another person for the state standards, if you're looking at those and you're just concerned, is Mary Belcher. She's here at KVEC and she's science. So thinking those lines, please feel free to contact these people. They will sit down with you, talk to you. It may be via Zoom. You can set up a Microsoft meeting, a Google Classroom meeting. They will work with you. The other thing is your first step, become familiar with those standards. Consider making a good thinking bubble, or what I call a thinking map, which can be a bubble chart or a circle chart, where you just start throwing ideas out there. And we talk about what are the students' strengths, maybe on one side, what are some weaknesses that we know, or what are some strengths, but what are some likes, right? And so the likes may go on in the center, and the outside of it may be some of the strengths that they already have and they can do, like they can pick up objects and put in your hand, right? So now we can work on counting. They can make sounds. So now let's start working on sounds for the alphabet and recognizing those. Things like that are things that we want to start with. They may already know their letters all the way to a certain number, a certain one. They may know their numbers, but they may not correlate that with place value. So now what do we need to do? And then how do we make sure that we can relate that to money? So we're going to use different objects at all times so that a child's not reliant on one object and they can transfer that knowledge. That's another thing. So I recommend that you don't use the same objects. Like if these kids are in middle school and you're concerned, find the smaller cubes if they don't put them in their mouths. If so, put the bigger Lincoln cubes in. You can get the 1 inch by 1 inch Lincoln cubes, which actually work for measurement too. Um, those are great for our kids to use. And that works for counting and creating that base 10. And it's a little bit bigger, but that's okay. So things that you can use, but a bubble chart, a Venn diagram, any of those that get you thinking so that you can put in, use the students' likes, use their dislikes, talk about, okay, and a good example is, oh, they hate the computer, but they love a tablet. Okay, that's fine. They can work a tablet with their fingers, or they can work a computer if they can use their fingers. They can't use a mouse, maybe. They can't get that grip on a mouse. They can recognize photos. And so that maybe they have a picture chart that they use every day in their class to know the schedule. So now let's use photos to start making them recognize words. And so we start creating a lot of photos around the room. We even put photos on the reading assignments, those kind of things. And what's their social skill? Do they have a person they really like to be with? And if they do, how can that person help you out? If they have a peer that they really like to be with, or they have a cousin maybe in the building that they like to be with, can that person come down for 20 minutes and read to them? Can that person come down and work with them during math time? Those kind of things can help. If there's another peer in the building that's really good and you've got some peer connections, let them help you in your room, because that peer connection, they'll learn a whole lot from their peers that they will not learn from us or a para. And sometimes paras are better with our kids than we are. I loved my paras. They were fabulous. All right. Now, who are your resources? Again, when you start thinking about this kind of thing, sit down with your parents, your guardians, whoever it may be that has your kid all the time that you don't have them, right? Think about your related arts teachers. Some of our kids love music. And so if they love music, how can I work with them with music? What are some tunes and things that can get them started? And there's a lot of musical things out there, including you can use AI to create some tunes. And that may be something you want to consider if they like music. Your paraprofessionals, they know those kids inside and out. I promise you, they are with them and they know those kids, what they like and what they don't like, what they're good at. Your OT and PT, there are different ways to get around things sometimes. And your OT and PT, they have those tricks. Speech and language. Those people are fabulous, and they are your good friends when it comes to getting your kids to understand things and giving them, even when they take them to work with them, some of the stuff that you're already working on so that they can use it, incorporate that right in. Also, the kids, if there's friends, ask them some questions. Hey, what do you guys like to do when you're together? Uh, are they responding to you? Is there something that they giggle at when you show them? Um, and then, of course, regular ed teachers who are in that area, they know those standards, guys. They know those standards. They have to know those standards. So that's another one that you can look at for getting that. Again, these are some resources, and they're right here in these books, okay? So think about that. Another thing that you might want to consider, In literacy, it's our standards, and underneath those standards, we have these areas, right? What are those components? And if you have not had the training with Chastity for UFly, call that girl. It's fabulous for our students, getting them to understand phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and even text comprehension. So make sure you get the UFly training. Mathematics is another area. So in kindergarten, we're looking at counting and cardinality. But if you have a student who has not had the 15-minute routine for counting and cardinality, and they're still struggling with numbers, please contact me and let's set up a time to which you can get that information on how to do a 15-minute routine to get your student understanding numbers to 20. And then from there, we can work on other things. So this is just a couple of the things that we have to think about. In K, we have counting and cardinality, adding and subtracting within 10. It's actually fluency within 5, but they are actually adding and subtracting within 10. Now, we have operations, and then we also have algebraic thinking that comes in kindergarten through 5th grade. We have numbers and base 10. That's huge. Again, K5, right? Measurement and data, K5, and actually data goes all the way through. But also think about social skills or the SEL that comes in math. And this is the seed. I'm going to put a link down here in just a little bit, but we actually had seed for each one. So there's social skills that go along with the math practices. That's not in this book, but it will be linked. Daily living skills that's in these books that it talks about, and how you can make choices and those kind of things. One of the things that I love about this book is there's so much good things about vocabulary and science, and it even has a teacher's guide for getting some of the lessons that you may need. And that's the reason why I really, really, really love this book right here. So this book is that 6 successful strategies for teaching to the state standards. So making sure that you have that. And then just daily cleanliness, teaching them to brush their teeth, using the bathroom, washing their hands, cleaning up after themselves when they eat, making sure they keep themselves clean while they're eating. Those kind of things are very important for our kids. And how do we set goals for those? That's all in these books. The other thing is real life. That's the big thing. And using a picture and a schedule, part of actually mathematics, right? Locating numbers in the room, or locating your room number, right? Or locating different teachers' room numbers, dialing a phone, knowing phone numbers. And so that's a great place to start. Using that keypad, right, for their lunch number, or just using a keypad period for different things that they may be doing. Things like that is some real life stuff that we need to do. So we're putting these 2 books out there for you guys. We're making sure that you have the opportunity to get these. Again, we've got 14 copies. That's all we're going to have. So that's all the chances that we've got for these. And we wanted to make sure they were out there and available to you guys. I hate that you guys can't see these, but right there they are. And again, I'll put these on the front when we start. So just some information that you can have. Thank you and have a great day.